You may be wondering, is this a good deal? Would it make a good Homelab server? I spend a lot of time on AliExpress. It's a great place to find electronics that are difficult to source domestically. Sometimes that's because low volume items don't make sense to bring across the ocean for distribution. You can find interesting, bizarre, or terrible things there too. This, for example, is all three: interesting, bizarre, and terrible. And I want it so much. If one of you wants to donate one of these to me, I would not say no. But back to the purpose of this video. A lot of times when I'm talking about home labbing, I've referenced using servers from a humble Raspberry Pi to small form factor PCs all the way up to an old PC that you have laying around. But what if you wanted to build something from scratch and wanted to spend as little as possible? Check this out. Welcome back to Dad Builds Stuff. Today, what this thing is, why it exists, what I will build with it, and how it stacks up against other cheap server options. The first thing that struck me was seeing Soyo. I don't remember seeing a Soyo motherboard since the Socket 7 days, and that was a long time ago. And sure enough, Soyo went bankrupt in 2009. Maybe the company restructured or someone bought the rights to their name, but it triggered the nostalgia either way. With the coupon, you can get a CPU and motherboard for less than $40. The CPU is an old Intel Xeon E5-2630 V4. It's a 10-year-old server chip design with 10 CPU cores and hyperthreading. It has decent cache, 40 lanes of PCI Express 3, good virtualization support, and a not awful 85-watt TDP. For reference, it's about the same speed as a 1st Gen 8-core Ryzen or a 10th Gen 6-core i7. The motherboard is kind of special in that it uses the X99 chipset. That was a high-end part that had support for high-end desktop CPUs and V3 and V4 E5 Xeons. The other thing that makes it special is that it's completely stripped down, which was not typical of X99 boards when the chipset was new. So why does this combo exist? Whether purchased or leased, the hundreds of thousands of servers in data centers and corporate server rooms often are liquidated when they are taken out of service. The components are often repurposed in order to squeeze some more use and value out of them. Hence, a basic motherboard meant to house a reclaimed server processor. Basic, in this context, means a single X16 and a single X1 PCI Express interface, 4 SATA ports, and an M.2 socket. The stripped-down design has its advantages, like being able to fit into a micro ATX case. Since the E5 Xeon doesn't have an IGP, you need to add a graphics card, which will immediately take your X16 slot. While even the cheapest graphics cards are pretty expensive, I picked up a brand new Polaris-based RX550 from Micro Center for this project for $50. Seriously, Micro Center. With as much as I mention you in these videos, you should really sponsor my content. Next, I got a basic heatsink and fan, compatible with Socket 1700 for about $25. I added an M.2 drive that I had handy, and some old non-ECC DDR4 that I had laying around. Same with the case and the power supply. Add a 5 gigabit network card to the X1 slot for $17, and the out-of-pocket expense is still under $150, with shipping. How expensive it is for you to use cheap parts depends heavily on what components you already have on hand. There are alternatives, so it helps to know how this stacks up against the other budget routes I routinely mention. Just know, this past year has been pretty rough on almost all of them. If you haven't been following the memory market, here's the short version. The AI data center build-out is eating the world's DRAM supply. Retail DDR5 prices tripled in 6 months. DDR4 has been pulled up with it, and the shortage is expected to last into 2027. The entire budget server landscape has been impacted. Start with the Raspberry Pi. I love the Pi, and it's still right for plenty of projects on this channel, but as a from-scratch server, it stopped being the cheap option. The 8GB Pi 5 is $170, the 16GB is $280, and a complete kit with power, storage, and cooling lands around $70 more. For that, you get 4 little ARM cores, 0 SATA ports, and drives dangling off of USB unless you're going to add a HAT. This build comes in at under that, and it crushes the Pi in compute. Then there are N100 and N150 mini PCs, which are great. They're quiet, tiny, and use almost no power at idle, which this Xeon will never ever do. But they used to be $160 impulse buys, and thanks to the RAM situation, the same boxes are currently $250 to $270. And what you buy is what you get. One stick of laptop memory, one NVMe slot, no PCIe, no SATA. When it's full, it's full. What about used corporate small form factor PCs? The prices on those have gone up considerably. Part of that is popularity. Everyone saw the same buy an old Optiplex videos. Part is sneakier. A used PC is also a used RAM purchase, and sellers know what the memory inside is worth now. Even then, an SFF hands you half-height slots, a proprietary power supply, and room for maybe 2 drives. This combo gives you a full-size X16 slot, a standard ATX power supply, and 4 SATA ports, for less. Used desktops have better expandability and parts compatibility, but the prices on those are even higher. And memory is where this weird little board shines. It takes plain DDR4, the kind that you might have in a drawer, or that I keep in a bin, like so. Many of these X99 boards also accept registered ECC server memory, though check your specific board specs to be sure. Registered ECC comes from the same liquidated data centers as the CPU, and it's still the cheapest RAM around. The one option that still beats this build is the old PC you already have laying around. After all, free is free. A natural question would be, who is this for? And my answer would be, anyone who abhors e-waste of any kind. Seriously though, it's good for anyone who has their eyes on future expansion. If you want to turn this into a NAS or media server, the 4 SATA ports will be useful. This can also be used as a local LLM server. And while the CPU is plenty fast for most applications, it can be upgraded very inexpensively. $30 will get you 18 cores and 36 threads, with performance comparable to an i7-9800X. A bit more will get you a 22-core E5-2690, with performance similar to a Threadripper 1950X or a Ryzen 9 3900 XT. Not bad. Just keep an eye on the VRM temperatures with 145-watt chips. A cheap fan pointed at the power delivery is good insurance. And if you're feeling really spicy, there are X99 dual-socket 1700 boards on AliExpress too. The downsides. Mostly power usage when the system is under load. Idle usage isn't terrible, but it won't win any awards either. I would normally say that the memory bandwidth isn't ideal, but in these days of obscene DDR5 prices, I don't really see DDR4 as a con anymore. And not having an IGP sucks, but at least you can pick whatever GPU meets your needs best, which isn't something you can do with most small form factor PCs. Also, the warranty on all of this is, we wish you well. Mine showed up working. The motherboard is new, so it's not like it's as bad as getting something off of eBay. The main server you'll see on this channel going forward is an old Ryzen 7 2700X. This one is going to pop up from time to time, and you should expect to see it again when I show you how to set up a Proxmox VE high-ability cluster. Let me know if you want that video. In case anyone was wondering, yes, this will run Frigate and Home Assistant just fine, along with a bunch of other stuff at the same time. What do you want to see done with this server? Let me know in the comments. Also, I want to know what kind of server or servers you use. If you found this useful or interesting, hit like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support my work, please type the video and consider becoming a member. I'm not a big deal, so it's pretty cheap. If you really like what I'm doing, there are expensive tiers too. And speaking of members, I want to thank the new members on the screen for their support. Have a great and highly recycled day.